She was only a girl, standing barefoot in the dirt of a crowded auction yard, her clothes torn, her hands trembling as though the weight of the world pressed down on her shoulders. A horse stood beside her, weak and weary, waiting for the hammer of fate to fall. Men gathered, coins clinking, eyes sharp and merciless, but then her voice rose above it all. A cry so desperate, so raw, that the entire yard froze. "Don't buy the horse," she screamed, her words shattering the silence. "Take me instead, rancher, or I'll be lost forever." Every man stared, some with laughter, some with cruelty, but none moved. Only one rancher stood still, his heart pounding, torn between sense and something far deeper. He had come for a horse. Instead, he was faced with a choice that would change his life forever. What secret bound her fate to that animal? Why did she beg with such desperation, as if her very soul hung in the balance? And what would happen when dark men returned to claim what they believed was theirs? Stay with me, because what follows will break your heart, and heal it in ways you'll never forget. The air was thick with dust, the kind that clung to the skin and stung the throat. Rising from the ground as hooves shuffled restlessly against the wooden floorboards of the old town auction yard, was a place where dreams and despair were sold side by side. Cattle, wagons, horses, and sometimes even people's last ounce of pride. Men gathered with pockets of coins and eyes sharpened like knives, hunting for bargains. The sound of the auctioneer's hammer and his rapid-fire voice echoed across the lot, pressing urgency into every bid. And in the center of it all stood a horse, a lean, weathered animal with ribs showing through its hide, eyes dull but still, carrying a glimmer of defiance. It was no stallion of prestige, no prized breed, just a creature abandoned by fortune and waiting for someone to decide its fate. But it wasn't the horse that drew the rancher's attention. No, it was the girl. Beside it, she couldn't have been more than 17. Her hair was tangled, her dress torn at the edges, her feet bare and caked in mud. Her wrists bore the faint red marks of rope, as if she had been bound not long before. She stood close to the animal, clutching its reins like her own life depended on it. And maybe, just maybe, it did. The rancher Eli Matthews had come only for a horse. His ranch on the far edge of Montana needed new blood, a beast strong enough to pull plows and carry loads. He wasn't a man to linger where crowds gathered, but that day he had coin in his pocket and purpose in his stride. His eyes scanned the horse, judging muscle and bone, but every time his gaze drifted to the girl, she flinched as if his very look was a threat. The auctioneer slammed his gavel, calling out numbers, urging the men to bid. Coins clinked, voices rose, but then, above it all, came a cry so raw, so desperate, that the entire yard froze. "Don't buy the horse." The words tore from the girl's throat, trembling, sharp as glass. Every head turned. Even the auctioneer paused, startled by the audacity. She stepped forward, her body shaking, her hands gripping the reins until her knuckles turned white. Her eyes, wide with fear, locked onto Eli's. "Don't buy the horse," she screamed again, her voice breaking. "Take me instead, rancher, or I'll be lost forever." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Men muttered curses, some spat on the ground, others laughed darkly, enjoying the spectacle. But Eli stood frozen, the hammer of silence pounding against his chest. He had seen many things in his life: men shot in bar fights, women begging for bread, neighbors burying their own kin. But never had he heard a girl offer herself in place of a horse. The auctioneer tried to wave it off, forcing a grin. "Ignore her, gentlemen, just a wild tongue. Now, who'll start the bid at $10? But the girl wasn't done. She stepped away from the horse and fell to her knees right in the dirt. Tears streaked down her face, carving lines through the dust. Her voice dropped, softer now, but heavy with the weight of despair. "You don't understand. If you buy the horse, they'll take me somewhere worse. I can't." Her breath hitched, her chest heaving. "I can't survive that. Please, take me instead." The crowd was restless now, whispers swelling like a tide. A few men jeered, some calling her worthless, others shouting cruel offers as if her words had turned her into part of the auction itself. Eli's fists tightened at his sides. Something inside him shifted, a memory of his own sister's cries long ago, when poverty nearly sold her into a life she didn't deserve. He had saved her then, but this girl, she was a stranger, tangled in a fate he didn't yet understand. He should have turned away, he should have walked out. but her words clung to him, each syllable a chain dragging him deeper. "Take me instead, rancher." He could still hear it, even as the gavel pounded and the horse's bidding began. The auctioneer shouted louder now, determined to bury the girl's plea under the noise. $10. Do I hear 10? A hand rose. Another. The numbers climbed, but Eli didn't move. He kept his eyes on her. She was trembling, her hands clasped as if in prayer, eyes locked on him as though he were the only hope left in a world that had turned its back. The bids reached 15, then 20. The horse wasn't worth it, not to any rancher with sense, but pride made men compete where logic failed. Still, Eli didn't hear the numbers. He heard only her cry. When the bid reached 30, she sobbed and pressed her forehead to the dirt. "If he takes the horse, I'll be gone. Gone forever. Please, don't let them." Something inside Eli snapped. He shoved through the crowd, boots kicking up dust, and stepped into the open space where she knelt. The murmurs grew louder, a storm of voices debating, mocking, questioning. But Eli ignored them all. He crouched down, close enough to see the terror etched in her face. His voice was low, steady. "Tell me, what do you mean by gone forever?" She lifted her head, eyes glistening with tears. For a moment, silence swallowed them whole. Then she whispered words, so soft, yet so devastating. They carved themselves into his soul. "If he wins that horse, I'll be sold with it." The world seemed to tilt. Eli's chest tightened, rage boiling under his skin. He turned his eyes toward the auctioneer, who avoided his glare and rattled off numbers faster, desperate to conclude the sale. But the truth was out, laid bare by a girl's broken voice. This wasn't just about a horse. This was about her life. Eli rose to his feet, his shadow falling over her fragile form. The crowd grew tense, sensing the storm about to break. His hand drifted to his belt, where his revolver hung heavy, though he didn't draw it. "Not yet." The girl's words echoed again, louder in his mind than the auctioneer's shout or the clamor of the men. "Take me instead, rancher, or I'll be lost forever." And in that moment, Eli Matthews realized his life was about to change forever. The crowd was restless, voices colliding like storm winds, but Eli Matthews heard nothing except the girl's broken whisper replaying. In his mind, "If he wins that horse, I'll be sold with it." The words hit him harder than a bullet. He had come for a horse, but now he stood in the center of an auction that was nothing short of slavery, dressed in a disguise. The auctioneer, sweating under the pressure, slammed his gavel again and barked out numbers, his voice rising to drown the truth the girl had dared to expose. But the silence inside Eli was louder, a silence thick with rage and decision. He looked down at her. She was still kneeling in the dirt, trembling, waiting for fate to crush her. Dust clung to her wet cheeks, her eyes shimmering with both fear and a flicker of desperate hope. And that hope was aimed at him alone. Eli clenched his fists, his jaw tight. He couldn't walk away. He couldn't let her vanish into the hands of men who would treat her as less than the earth beneath their boots. He had seen darkness in men's hearts, and he knew what being sold meant for a girl like her. The auctioneer's voice cracked through the tension. $35. Do I hear 35? A stout man with a greasy hat waved his hand, grinning, his eyes fixed not on the horse, but on the girl. Eli's blood turned to fire. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. His voice, calm but thunderous, cut across the yard. 50. The crowd fell silent. $50 for a horse that wasn't worth 10. Every eye turned to Eli, some wide with shock, others narrowing with suspicion. The stout man cursed under his breath but raised his hand again. The girl whimpered, clutching her arms around herself, rocking as if every number spoken was a nail in her coffin. Eli's hand twitched near his belt, but he didn't draw. Not yet. He looked at her again, then raised his chin. Yard erupted in murmurs. No horse here had ever been bid so high. The auctioneer's eyes gleamed with greed, his gavel trembling as he called for more. 100. The stout man bellowed, his face red with determination. The girl gasped, burying her face in her hands. Eli felt his chest tighten, fury boiling higher. He had no reason to pay that much for a half-starved animal. But this wasn't about a horse anymore. This was about saving a soul. Eli's voice thundered again, shaking the rafters of the yard. 200. The words silenced the entire crowd. You could have heard a pin drop. Men muttered disbelief, some scoffing, others glaring. The stout man froze, his bravado crumbling under the weight of that number. He spat in the dirt and backed down, fists clenched but powerless. The auctioneer, half choked on his own shock, slammed the gavel. Sold for $200 to Eli Matthews. The cheer never came. Only silence, thick and heavy, as Eli strode forward. He pulled the coins from his pocket, the sum of months of work, and slammed them onto the table. His eyes never left the girl. She lifted her head slowly, disbelief etched across her face. Tears clung to her lashes, trembling as if afraid to fall. Eli extended his hand. "You're coming with me." Her breath hitched. For a moment, she didn't move, as if her body had forgotten what hope felt like. Then, with trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. He pulled her to her feet, steadying her as her knees nearly buckled beneath the weight of relief. The crowd parted as Eli led her away, the horse trailing behind them. Whispers followed like shadows, accusations, judgments, warnings. But Eli didn't care. He had chosen. Once outside the yard, where the noise faded and the open sky stretched wide, Eli stopped. He turned to her, his voice steady but softer than before. "Tell me your name." She swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "Anna," she whispered. "Anna," he repeated, the name grounding him. "You're safe now." But she shook her head violently, fear flaring in her eyes. "No, no, I'm not. You don't understand. They'll come for me. They always do." Eli frowned, his gut twisting. "Who?" Her voice cracked as she answered. "The men who put me there. They don't just sell horses. They sell girls." If he hadn't, her words collapsed into sobs, her body shuddering. Eli's jaw tightened. He pulled his coat from his shoulders and draped it around her, shielding her shivering frame. "They won't touch you again," he said, each word like iron. But deep inside, he knew this wasn't over. The men she spoke of wouldn't let a $200 prize slip through their fingers without a fight. He had saved her for now, but the storm was still coming. They walked toward his wagon, the horse trailing behind. The sky was fading into dusk, shadows lengthening across the dirt road. Anna clutched his coat tighter, glancing over her shoulder every few steps, as if expecting hands to snatch her back. Eli studied her quietly. She was young, far too young to have carried such terror in her voice, and yet there was strength there, too buried beneath fear, hidden under scars life had carved. When they reached the wagon, Eli helped her climb up, then tied the horse to the back. He took the reins and sat beside her, the wooden seat creaking under his weight. The road stretched long and lonely ahead, leading toward his ranch on the far horizon. For a while, neither spoke. The wheels rumbled against the dirt, the horse's hooves steady in rhythm. Then, softly, Anna's voice broke the silence. "Why did you do it?" Eli kept his eyes on the road. "Because I couldn't stand by and watch you be lost." Her hands tightened in his coat, her gaze dropping to the floorboards. "You paid too much." He glanced at her, his voice low but certain. "Some things are worth more than coin." Her lips quivered as she tried to form words, but none came. Instead, tears welled again, silent this time, slipping down her cheeks like rivers breaking dams. Night settled over the land, stars pricking the sky. The chill deepened, but inside Eli's wagon sat a fragile warmth, hope, fragile but real. He had pulled her from the edge of ruin, yet both of them knew shadows still lingered behind. Anna turned toward him, her eyes glistening in the dim light. "You saved me today, but what if they come tomorrow?" Eli tightened his grip on the reins. His voice was calm, unshaken. "Then let them come. They'll find out what it means when a rancher protects his own." Her breath caught, a strange mix of fear and relief flickering in her gaze. For the first time, a faint smile tugged at her lips, fragile as dawn breaking through storm clouds. And though Eli didn't say it aloud, he knew the truth already. He hadn't just saved Anna's life, he had tied his fate to hers, and nothing, no men, no shadows, no threats would ever tear her away again. The wagon rolled into the night, the stars cold and distant. Eli's ranch lay miles ahead, but Anna's fear rode closer than any shadow. She flinched at every rustle of wind, every crack of branch. Her hands never loosened their grip on his coat, as if letting go would mean losing her last thread of safety. Eli kept his eyes steady on the road, but his ears stayed sharp. He had lived long enough to know when danger stalked him, and tonight he felt it in his bones. By the time the ranch lights glimmered faint on the horizon, hoofbeats thundered behind them. Anna gasped. her face turning pale. "They've come." Eli's jaw hardened. "Stay low." She ducked as 3 riders burst from the dark, their faces cruel, their laughter twisted. They circled the wagon like wolves around prey. The stout man from the auction sneered, his eyes fixed on Anna. "You think you can steal what's ours?" Matthews, he spat. "She belongs to us." Eli didn't reach for his revolver immediately. His voice was calm, cutting. "She belongs to no man, not to you, not anymore." The men sneered, spitting curses, edging closer. Anna trembled, whispering, "They'll take me back. Please, don't let them." Eli's hand lowered to his revolver, his thumb brushing the worn grip. "Over my dead body," the stout man snarled. "So be it." In the silence that followed, only the wind spoke. Then steel flashed, and chaos erupted. Shots cracked, sparks lit the night. Horses screamed, wheels jolted. Eli fired, his aim sharp, each shot a vow. 2 riders fell into the dirt, their screams swallowed by the dark. The stout man reeled back, clutching his arm, his hatred burning even brighter. "You'll regret this, rancher," he hissed before galloping into the shadows, leaving blood and dust behind. Silence fell again, broken only by Anna's sobs. She clung to Eli's arm, shaking. "If you hadn't, I would have been gone forever." Eli holstered his gun, his voice steady though his chest heaved. "I told you, they won't touch you again." When they finally reached the ranch, dawn painted the sky in fragile light. Eli helped Anna down, her bare feet sinking into the earth that would now be her sanctuary. She looked around at the barn, the fields, the quiet safety of land untouched by cruelty, and her tears turned to something softer. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why would you give up everything? For me?" Eli met her eyes, his voice low, certain. "Because no soul should be lost forever. Not while I still draw breath." Her lips trembled, a sob escaping her chest. And then she did the one thing she had longed to do, but never dared she let herself believe. She stepped closer, clutching his coat, her forehead pressed against him, her tears soaking the fabric. For the first time since her cry in the auction yard, her voice carried not fear, but fragile hope. "Then I am yours, forever." Eli wrapped his arm around her, holding her as if anchoring her to the earth itself. The sun rose higher, washing away the darkness, and though shadows lingered in the world, they no longer held her. She had been nearly lost forever, but now, because one man chose her over a horse, her life had been rewritten, and in that choice, desperate, impossible, and unshakable, they both found something they hadn't expected. Not just survival, but a forever they could finally believe in. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like. It truly means the world. Make sure to subscribe and follow the channel so you never miss another powerful story like this one. And to everyone who's been watching, sharing, and supporting, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're the reason these stories live on.